Hello fellow Smashers, this is FS Smash, and recently I came upon a video talking about Fire Emblem Three Houses and its graphics, and discussing about how it's not the greatest graphic that has come from Fire Emblem in general. The video was made by Dial Menu, and I'm going to be doing a sort of just my thoughts and my opinions on what he has to say, sort of like on my response video to what Dollar Menu has to say on his end about why Fire Emblem Three Houses graphics aren't the best. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video and I'll discuss my opinions. I'll be pausing. I will be playing the video in 1.25 speed as to just save time when doing this response video. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
I'm going to start with the environments, because I think it's more of a subtle problem than a really glaring one. However, I'd argue environments are
Yes, I would agree. The environments in Fire Emblem Three Houses aren't the greatest. They obviously are stretched out graphics, and they aren't the most appealing, but they are the least glaring in my opinion when it comes to the other points you'll be bringing up. In the heated battle, I doubt you'll pay most attention to the actual graphics or the environments of the game while you're fighting. You'd mostly be paying attention to the actual fight scenes where the two characters, your character and the enemy interacting, aka fighting. The environmental graphics when fighting or zooming into fights will be the least of our concerns.
pretty damn important, especially in a Fire Emblem game. As a tactical RPG with a massive battlefield, terrain plays a pretty integral role in gameplay. It's the context of your battles, and a cool or well-crafted environment can really make memorable levels, and overall just adds to the immersion of the combat itself. But before I shit on this game's environment design, I'll point out the things I like so far. The mountainside monastery is a pretty cool concept, especially for what I imagine the hub world will be, and most of the interior shots of this game look pretty good. They give me a kinda Hogwartsy vibe, but I fuck with that, so it's all good. Finally, some of the forest areas look nice as well, and have some nice details like stone ruins and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's all I can really say. The problem is that a lot of these areas just look empty, and the textures are particularly bad and stretched out in some places.
This may be just in general some certain areas we've seen through the Famitsu articles, shots, and videos. They may be a bit bad in terms of fidelity, graphics, lighting, and shadows, but ultimately you have mentioned other shots looking way better. So perhaps at this point these are underdeveloped areas, and we can maybe look in the next 2 months that these areas that seem to be having graphic issues, looking bad, may improve over time. But honestly, I don't see any issue as of right now. We have 2 months prior release, and so with that in mind, hopefully in graphics in Fire Emblem Three Houses will improve.
I get that some of these examples are screenshots and they look slightly better in motion, but still, why does this game barely even match up to the environments in the 3DS games? And the 3DS is a lot more limited in hardware. These are just clips from trailers and screenshots that have been posted on the website and all that stuff, but again, if you're going to advertise a game, wouldn't you want to use some of your most jaw-dropping environments?
That may be just due to hiding these said jaw-dropping environments and hiding most of the content that Fire Emblem Three Houses has to offer. We may see this in the E3 trailers coming up, but otherwise, I would understand why Nintendo would not want to release too much information to the game already. We are getting drop-fed a lot through the Famitsu articles, so I can see why they would want to keep it like that. They do not want to release as much information to help build up hype over time, so that might just be the reason as to why Nintendo isn't showing us some of the more extravagant shots we've come to expect from Fire Emblem as of right now.
At best, they look pretty good, but at worst, they look really bad, or just boring. I just hope that these are the rare examples and that they look pretty good for the majority of the game, but, from what I see so far, not so hopeful.
With that in mind, I think the environments look fine. Even though the environment is what makes the battles worthwhile and what keeps you entertained, ultimately in the end, you will see all the animations, you will walk through everything pretty much in a Fire Emblem game, especially in battles when it comes to the environment and battling. You will eventually come to a point where you would disable the battle animation just for the heck of speed.
Fire Emblem has come a long way in terms of animation. From the stiff animations in the first games, to mastering the art of 2D sprite work in the Game Boy era, to reinventing itself in 3D. Hell, even the mobile game has some sick animations of its own.
Mind you, these are just different graphic styles. Fire Emblem Three Houses has its own distinct style, with it being more darker tone, much like Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. And I still argue, right, Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, sure, I'd say they still carry similar crit animation. And I have mentioned in the past that Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn still has slightly better crit animation. More so on Radiant Dawn. Path of Radiance graphics look pretty bad compared to Radiant Dawn and other modern Fire Emblem installments. But otherwise, each of these games have their distinct style, looks, and animations can be flexed heavily. With GBA, it would always flashy animations. There was no realism in that respect. And even then, I guess Fire Emblem in itself does not have realistic attack animations, but they were just flashy for the sake of being flashy. And you notice I could just disable it, like for most people. Same with Fire Emblem Heroes. I'm not sure about Radiant Dawn. Most likely the case in Radiant Dawn compared to how fights are so big and you have a lot of units, so you most likely want to turn that off for just time's sake.
To me, animations play a huge role in game feel, making the game satisfying to play. Given the sheer amount of combat that goes on in these games, having sweet combat visuals are almost necessary given how often you'll be seeing them.
Well, that is true. Again, it will become to a point where you would just rather turn it off in general. So I don't think this can still stand as something that is important when it comes to battle combat animations.
One of my favorite things in the new Fire Emblem games is when you get that critical strike activation, you know shit's about to go down.
You deserve worse!
I like how you mentioned Fire Emblem Fates in this example for a critical animation. I understand that Fates has some pretty flashy animations when it comes to crits, but I feel like they aren't Echo's level of definitely. They feel a bit bland. You literally see a character kick a unit while swinging his katana. Sure, that looks cool, but it doesn't feel like it has any weight behind it. It feels like it's very stagnant, and it doesn't look as good. Like the katana doesn't have any like blur or sudden effects. It's just, when you inspect these slowly, they don't look as impressive compared to Echoes. Echoes has pretty much outbeaten them on that respect.
So why did I just ramble on about how much I love animation? Well, in Fire Emblem Three Houses, there's something a bit off with the animations and the combat feel in general. The animations almost seem rushed, like if you're playing in fast motion, and it's almost as if they lack a certain weight that the previous games had. The particle effects are nice, the movement is smooth, but the hits have almost no impact. On top of this, with the whole massive army visual that some combat scenes play, the animations are almost...
I do disagree with how you say the animations do not have impact or animation. As you notice with Petra's crit, it does feel much more flashy and it has some nice swings. Honestly, I was not a fan of the animation, but taking a deeper look, and when I was, funny enough, editing a Petra meme video, a bit of a meme video, I saw how well the animations were in Petra's crit animation, and it looks good. I think the crit looks good. It has weight. The characters feel good. The pushback is good. The general swing down feels potent, and the slashes and particle effects look better.
hilariously lame.
Okay, this is something I horribly disagree with. This was a footage taken a year ago from Fire Emblem Three Houses' first trailer. I honestly don't see the point of bringing up footage that is a year old, especially when the game was still in its, I'd say, older stage, and definitely, of course, this animation would not look good, especially because you're cherry picking this exact moment in which this specific animation works in your favor of saying how animations look bad, especially because it literally is a year old footage. We have yet to see this animation go play again. It might be better, it might be not.
Is it just me who thinks that this has more impact than this?
It's just you. I think that this style looks much better. It looks much more grittier, darker, and it fits the theme of Fire Emblem Three Houses way better.
I mean, there's like no freeze frames, and freeze frames are what make this satisfying.
And this is a fighting game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, in which case you do multiple hits, combos in one go. Fire Emblem Three Houses, on the other hand, has combat where you take turns swinging at each other. If you double your opponent, you hit them once. They hit you back, you hit them again. Unless you're wielding a brave weapon or any other special effect, heroes just comes to mind. Fire Emblem is not a fighting game. It's a tactic RPG. You will see fighting animations, but it's not in terms of. It's a poor comparison to bring up Smash Ultimate, a fighting game in which frames data is important and you need every frame. You look at the characters, their details, how they combo and all that. So I think this is a bit of a poor comparison.
Of all things that I complain about in this video, this might seem like the least important. But to me, it's just an unnecessary step backwards that ends up making the game feel less satisfying than the games before it. And well, that sucks.
I don't think it's necessarily a step backwards. I think it beats out Fates, but definitely does not compare to Echoes. You can still compare, but Echoes still ultimately comes up on top when it comes to battle animations.
Now this one is a bit tricky, and I'm going to clarify what I mean by art style. The art style of the characters is perfectly fine for the most part. It's a bit too generic of an anime style for my taste, but Fire Emblem is no stranger to that.
I can completely agree with you with the animation, the art style not looking up to par, and definitely looking generic. But I think it looks fine for what it is, and it works. It isn't hurting the eye. It looks okay, and it works. That's really all I need. It's more about the gameplay and actual plot and story and character development as a whole. And I'm pretty sure you do mention this, so I do agree on that.
And while I would have liked Hidari, the artist who did Shadows of Valencia, to have worked on this game, I'm okay with this artist as well. What I mean by the art style being ugly is the clashing of the
Funny enough, this animation that he's playing right now just showcases how powerful and the animations are when it compares to Echoes
associated
of the general like weight and kickback of moves. Like this bandit literally gets flung in the air and is axe flying by Bylev's
cartoon aesthetic.
It just shows the general animations, and the cherry picking bad animation points is not the best when you literally have that, for example. And literally, I think Petra still has a good crit animation, but that's just my
of the characters versus the realistic style of the world.
I think this is a good thing, honestly. I think with Fire Emblem Three Houses, the plot, the setting that we have right now in the theme comes up as a dark, gritty game compared to many of the other Fire Emblem games we have received. It comes in terms of Telltale's games when it comes to more gritty, dark themed story, and I definitely think that the art style fits that kind of theme, and where the environments look much more gritty, realistic, while at the same time the characters still can stand out and contrast the environment, even with the weird cell shading. I think the characters can still stand out and give the environment its understanding of realism and potency when it comes to looking real. While at the same time, characters can still stick out, and it definitely still I think it still fits the theme of what Fire Emblem Three Houses is trying to pull off here.
Either one is fine, but for the love of God, just stick to one. Characters pop out of the world in an almost extreme way, and they just don't blend in. Just look at this screenshot in particular, where the characters and the food on the table almost seem photoshopped into the world. For example of a great art style on the Switch, just look at Breath of the Wild, with its consistent cel-shaded style making it really nice to look at, and it gets away with the muddy textures that it does have because it's not trying to focus on realism.
But the thing is, Fire Emblem Three Houses is literally focusing on realism. Even though the characters still stick out, they want to stick out for a reason, not to blend in with the environment. Otherwise, I consider that poor character design. The game itself, Fire Emblem Three Houses, is conveying itself to be a nitty gritty game with dark points, plots, and an ongoing theme that seems to be where the Garrick Monastery might be evil, etc. I can go into that, but generally the graphics and art style fit what Fire Emblem Three Houses plot, setting, and thing it want and general. I want to say just the general looks. It fits what Fire Emblem Three Houses wants to do.
With Fire Emblem Three Houses, the bad textures look extra bad just because of how much clearer the characters look in every way. Now, I'm obviously not saying
then that just makes you want to focus on the actual clear characters here, rather ignore the bad environment.
That Fire Emblem should copy Breath of the Wild's art style. But what it is stylistically consistent and aware of its limitations. Fire Emblem Three Houses, in comparison, is a mess. It can't decide what it wants to do, and it ends up looking a lot worse for it.
I think the Fire Emblem Three Houses know what it's doing. It's just a matter of preference, and I think that Fire Emblem Three Houses I think it's a matter of preference and perspective. I think Fire Emblem Three Houses is doing excellent when it comes to the graphics and art style. It literally wants to be a nitty gritty game, and want to have realistic environments while still not having characters literally blend into set environments, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, I've rambled on long enough about this, so it's time to wrap this up. Here's a reminder that all of what I just said is really my opinion, and I'm going to buy this game regardless of how shitty I think it looks because it's a Fire Emblem game, and ultimately I love the gameplay, and hopefully the characters and the plot are fun and interesting. Graphics aren't everything. That's been said a billion times before, but it's true. I'm just really disappointed at the lost potential here, especially from a AAA Nintendo game. Fire Emblem has always had a high standard for the consoles that it releases in.
High standards, when you look at Path of Radiance, you would have that statement retracted instantly.
And it's such a shame that Three Houses wasn't able to live up to my expectations. So do you think I'm exaggerating? Do you think the game is beautiful? Or do you agree with me?
I think you are exaggerating. When it comes to the title literally saying Fire Emblem Three Houses is ugly, I think that's literally I would say a bit clickbaity. Because you don't straight up say the graphics are bad, but you definitely go on to points where you still would say you buy the game, and the title literally answers the question of Fire Emblem Three Houses when it comes to the viewers. That's not entirely.
I don't care. Let me know in the comments below. So thanks for watching again, and I guess maybe I'll do a follow-up when the game comes out. I don't know.
Alright, that's the end for me. What I thought personally is the graphics are fine for what Fire Emblem Three Houses has. It looks fine. I don't think the animations look bad. The environment looks okay because at some point you will disable it because that's a Fire Emblem game. You would not want to see the animation constantly. You will get sick of it, and unless you don't want to get sick of it, maybe turn it on special events in which you're probably doing the final battle, then sure, keep the animations on, but otherwise I don't think this is a good video covering about Fire Emblem Three Houses art style and graphics, and I think it looks fine for what it is. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below.